Chapter 5. Part 3. The celebrations for the victory of the Fourth Iron War lasted for a month, an unmitigated triumph of the League of the Dragon Dorsal and especially of King Dasmir II, its main promoter. The king was generous with the status of New Ulbiana. The area would be allowed a certain autonomy and no one was forced to leave the place. In reality, the territory lacked the slightest interest since the colonization of Ulbiana had not been a success either. However, in what would now be the southern border of Demember, a certain agricultural industry with some potential had begun to flourish, and it was foolish to waste the good that was not the same. Had the occupation of the area, and it had not been punished by the war. The kingdom of Demember had suffered great damage. Fortunately, the mines that had been occupied by the dwarfs could be operational again quickly, but it would take a year for the red mines to be at full capacity, and that would make a huge effort. In addition, its famous canal that supplied water to the royal palace had to be rebuilt. The population had also suffered during the year of war and the human losses were significant, but only with the first payment of the compensation that was made at the time of signing the peace was part of the damage already compensated. For those for whom the war had been a round business was for the mercenaries of the Company of the Blue Phoenix. The soldiery far exceeded the losses in the war, and they were also guaranteed by the king a third of the payment of tribute to Demember during the first 3 years. Deboke was beyond his joy, but it wasn't just that. Fame, the victory at the Red Mines, the victory at the Demember Palace, the resistance on Burning Hill. They had unequivocally defeated the Flaming Sword Company and the other mercenary companies of Almera, making it clear who was the best. She had in her ranks the priestess of the god Elaban. She alone had finished off the Legion of the Golden Lion. Takush, the best combat mage in all of Shanaris. Gosberg, who had defeated the dwarfs at the Blood Mines, as he did 50 years ago with the same ploy. His second-in-command, Aris, had held out easily at Castle Black and had devised the strategy for the Battle of Burning Hill. The cousins of Aris were the best orc warriors of their generation. Sabu was itself a battalion of the best mercenaries. Kritus was the best crossbowman in the world. Loranthus was a competent and disciplined captain. Silkuri was the best warrior he had seen in years, and she could make decisions on her own with confidence for her general. They were even fortunate to have a Kendali who was vital in organizing the liberation of Demeba's palace and Castle Black. A being capable of infiltrating and breaking through enemy lines without any problem. And lastly, Agnoruk. He certainly wasn't on people's lips, but he had been with Gosberg inside the Blood Mines and then participated in the liberation from the sieges. He also organized the defense of the northwestern frontier. He was key in organizing the march of the League's reinforcement army. It also killed Arisa's lieutenant, Almazayed Neckbreaker, and nearly killed General Adrian de Paulo. No mercenary or Demember soldier under his command has fought with as much pride as when they were under his command. Always the first to stand guard, the first to march, the last to eat, and always the same as his men, he slept next to them. The name of each of them was known, and for a warrior who had never participated in a conventional war, his performance was more than remarkable. But as he always seemed to seek discretion in the second row, his actions were admirable, but not as showy as those of his companions. Deboke was sure that if Agnoruk wanted to, he could be the best warrior in all of Shanaris, but there was something about him that held him back. The veteran warrior was busy writing the general report on the Fourth Iron War for his personal archives. But he was interrupted by Loranthus. It was time to get ready for the gala dinner. King Dasmir II had spared no expense. He had invited all the leaders who made up the League of the Dragon Dorsal to celebrate the victory. At the call for the distribution of booty, most of the kings and rulers had come without hesitation. The only city that was more or less in acceptable condition was Kazmin, which was decked out to hold a great banquet. They all showed their best clothes. King Dasmir II with his heir, his young son Dasmir and his favorite daughter, Princess Nazmarina. But the young woman could not inherit the throne of Demember despite the bravery she had shown in the war. The mercenaries were placed next to the king of Demember and were presented to the leaders of the League. All praise was focused on the fashionable couple Arian and Aris, along with their beautiful daughter Oriana. The dinner began with some pompous speeches that reproducing them would be tedious and very boring. At the end they celebrated the banquet enlivened by pleasant music. To finish, a dance was held to the sound of wonderful fireworks. At the table of the captains of the company there was a good atmosphere. Gosberg ate and drank for 7 as usual. Sabu had been arranged to fit her height quite and played with Oriana, who was accompanied by Anthra. Arian and Aris were caressing each other. They had spent a lot of time apart. Kush was talking to Kritus about the differences between the dwarfs of the hills and the dwarfs of the Dragon Ridge. Aris' cousins were drinking and eating quietly. Loranthus and Silkari were surprised since the Kendali had become invisible to them. While Agnoruk sipped some wine with an absent air, tonight the white moon reigned in the heavens. It was the end of summer, and Astabaran was shining in the sky. The half-orc could not help but remember again the story of his father, the chosen one of the gods. Suddenly he received a blow that made him come out of his reverie. His black eyes showed a tone of ferocity before his aggressor. That it was the dwarf Tanya, who was a good dwarf of the dorsal, was already drunk, honoring the fame of her people when it came to drinking. Come on, half-orc. Is it a party, not a funeral? Tanya, you're already drunk. Ha ha ha, we have to celebrate Agnoruk, repudiated by my people and now hostage to you. You have to get drunk. The dwarf was too drunk to stand, so she fell face first to the ground. Arian rushed to sit her in a chair. What a drunkenness. All you need is... Agnoruk could not say anything more. The dwarf began to vomit what she had drunk and so she felt better. That made the half-orc stand up while the music sounded, indicating that a new dance was beginning. Let's go, Agnoruk. You owe me a dance. I'm sorry, I don't know how to dance. Come on, half-orc is Princess Nazmarina. Gosberg encouraged him. Thank you, but I'm not good at it. That way you will never find a partner. Kritus joked. Princess Nazmarina smiled mischievously. That's Agnoruk. I would like to see who conquered Queen Thara and Queen of the Amazons. Arian was wide-eyed. As always, Princess Nazmarina was aware of all the most delicious gossip that happened in Shanaris. Agnoruk didn't know that. It was a long time ago. I was there. The Queen of the Amazons begged him to lie with her. Gosberg. Agnoruk, he exclaimed angrily. Even Tanya opened her eyes. The Queen of the Amazons, for many she was considered the most beautiful woman in all of Shanaris. Rumors said that her only daughter was the result of the relationship of a foreigner who proved to be a worthy man for her. Those are just unfounded rumors. That never happened. Let's go. It's just a dance. Arian encouraged him. The little Denka pushed the half-orc into the center of the dance floor and was forced to dance alongside the princess, to the laughter of the others. If the truth is that the Queen of the Amazons saw him as her ideal partner, it would be because of how he fights, certainly not because of how he dances. Joked Aris. Come on, Agnoruk dances with a little more grace. Kritus stood up and stood on top of the chair, clapping to the music. What they caused was not an improvement in the dance technique, but that the half-orc threw a comb at them with his right hand, to the laughter of everyone.